On February 24, 1944, under the nocturnal canopy above Anzio, Italy, a pair of full Scr-584 units arrived hastily amid the turmoil and were entrenched up to their trailer tops by dawn. The following evening brought 12 German bombers into the beachhead's airspace, where 7 fell to the 90mm artillery guided by the Scr-584. The figures from that evening baffled German analysts until the war's end. 7 out of 12 aircraft downed in total blackout conditions, a 58% success ratio that challenged all prior notions of anti-aircraft combat. Prior to this event, even under ideal daytime visibility, such guns typically scored 1 hit per 2,500 rounds expended. The escaping German pilots described an extraordinary occurrence: barrages that mirrored their every twist and turn, detonations that materialized precisely at spots where planes would arrive moments later, defensive fire that anticipated their choices ahead of time. What felled those planes wasn't exceptional aiming or chance hits. Rather, it was the Scr-584, a microwave radar with automated pursuit capabilities that transformed aerial protection. This innovation stayed mostly secret from German troops across the conflict, steadily undermining the Luftwaffe's operational power. The enemy pilots had ventured into the next era of battle without realizing it. The Luftwaffe's predicament had been mounting since 1940, when UK researchers passed the cavity magnetron to the US via the Teasard mission. These British innovators delivered their top-secret device essential for crafting advanced, potent radar setups, the 10-cm cavity magnetron. This exchange of tech yielded outcomes beyond what either partner had foreseen. As German radar progress stuck to traditional meter-wave methods, U.S. specialists at MIT's Radiation Laboratory crafted a breakthrough. The Scr-584 stood as a pinnacle of era technology, capable of spotting planes up to 40 miles away with a positional precision of 75 feet. It functioned on microwave bands that German sensors utterly failed to notice. Operating across 2,700 to 2,900 megahertz with 10 to 11 cm waves, it emitted 300 kilowatt bursts lasting 0.8 microseconds at a repetition rate of 1,170 pulses per second. German alert receivers, tuned for British systems at 200 to 600 megahertz, remained oblivious to these signals. The disparity extended beyond just wavelengths. The Scr-584 utilized self-guided pursuit via conical scan. Its signals swept in a conical sweep around the central line, enabling it to fix on and trail dynamic objectives independently of operators. Paired with the M9 gun director, an analog calculator featuring 160 vacuum tubes, it generated firing data 30 times each second, factoring in wind velocity, atmospheric thickness, target speed, and ballistic descent. Its rollout at Anzio signaled a pivotal shift in anti-aircraft tactics. Aerial assaults halted for 7 days. 1 lone aircraft ventured to probe the safeguards, only to get obliterated. 10 additional units arrived that week, neutralizing the overhead peril to Anzio. German aircrews who had raided Allied sites triumphantly for years now confronted an inexplicable foe. The setup's potency arose from full mechanization. After the Scr-584 operator spotted a bogey and engaged auto mode, the radar secured the fix and pursued it through any dodges. This info streamed straight to the M9, which determined the upcoming intersection of projectile and flyer. 4 90mm cannons linked to the director shifted in flawless unison. German operators noted a baffling effect: shell blasts that foretold their dodges. During a plunge, bursts ignited at the dive's nadir. On a bank, detonations lined the projected trajectory. This differed from the familiar saturation volleys. It was machine-driven accuracy that outpaced human reflexes. While German engineers assembled radar prototypes in modest labs, American factories churned out Scr-584 units with car-making precision. Roughly 1,700 reliable Scr-584s emerged to counter bombing runs. The main producer, Chrysler Corporation, adapted production lines that shifted radar assembly from artisanal work to streamlined manufacturing. By August 31, 1943, 610 units had been dispatched. The Dodge Division supplied Unit 1070 on January 28, 1944, alongside 628 more for the U.S. Marine Corps, Coastal Guards, and Reserves, totaling 2,998. This firm's yield alone surpassed Germany's full radar output for the entire war. The disparity highlighted core variances in manufacturing approaches, German experimental radar. The assembly of early radar systems demanded expert technicians, with every unit featuring minor variations. In contrast, the Scr-584 incorporated standardized components and modular design, enabling quick battlefield fixes by troops with minimal preparation. While Germany produced mere dozens, the United States manufactured thousands. During the D-Day landings on June 6, 1944, 39 of these devices countered Luftwaffe assaults on the shorelines. Engineered with special waterproofing for the seaborne operation, these radars established an unmatched protective shield above the biggest armada in history. Obus Josef Pips Priller, among just 2 Luftwaffe aviators who struck the D-Day beaches, lived to recount the ordeal. In his debrief after the war, he portrayed the flak as unparalleled in his 5 years of fighting. Rather than random salvos, it consisted of targeted bursts that compelled endless dodging, rendering precise strikes unfeasible. The Luftwaffe's shortcomings at Normandy arose not from deficient bravery or expertise. Instead, German airmen plunged into a tech-based snare they failed to comprehend. Survivors echoed the eerie encounters seen at Anzio, flak that anticipated their moves, foreseeing dodges prior to initiation. The countermeasures against Hitler's 51 reprisal weapons offered the starkest proof of the Scr-584's groundbreaking prowess. These V-1 buzz bombs, cruising at 400 nanometers along predictable paths at fixed heights, ought to have been straightforward prey. However, their velocity defied traditional targeting techniques, making intercepts exceedingly difficult. 20 Scr-584 units were deployed along England's Channel front to curb V-1s reaching London. Paired with 80 cannons firing innovative proximity-fused rounds, they eliminated hundreds. A single Sunday saw 97 out of 101 downed from the air. Records revealed a seismic shift in flak performance. In the initial week, 17% of incoming buzz bombs crossing the coastal artillery zone fell to the guns. This climbed to 60% by August 23 and hit 74% in the month's final days, including one remarkable instance with 82% takedowns. Efficiency soared, dropping from 1 V1 per 2,500 rounds expended to 1 per 100. Such a 25 times boost in shell usage signified far beyond minor advances. It signaled the moment when protective armaments gained dominance over offensive planes. Eyewitnesses from Germany along the French shoreline observed V-1s obliterated by brief, accurate volleys of just 3 or 4 shells, observations that upended their grasp of anti-aircraft combat. Germany's oversight of the Scr-584 danger originated from a core error in scientific judgment. In January 1943, experts under Professor Abraham Esau persuaded leaders that centimeter-wave radar defied physics. They claimed too little signal would echo back at those wavelengths for viable spotting. Relying on this erroneous theory, the nation halted all microwave radar development. By February 1943, when troops seized a British H-2S set operating on centimeter waves, the discovery arrived too tardily. Germany lagged years in microwave tech, a deficit unbridgeable amid conflict. Intelligence from Germany repeatedly misread signs of Allied radar dominance. Accounts from pilots about uncanny flak precision got chalked up to better drills, enhanced optics, or sheer volume of artillery. The notion of U.S. automatic microwave tracking stayed inconceivable to Germans until late 1944. All through 1944, Luftwaffe electronic countermeasures relied on gear suited for prior conflicts. The Fu-G-227 Flensburg scanner hunted signals from 170 to 220 megahertz. The Fu-G-350 NAC spanned 2,500 to 3,150 megahertz, nearer the Scr-584's band yet still inadequate for consistent detection. At a deeper level, these German detectors targeted sweeping search radars that grazed planes momentarily. The Scr-584's conical scan, locking steadily on individual threats, emitted signatures their tools overlooked as perils. Luftwaffe operators ventured into radar-directed kill zones as their alerts stayed mute. Crafted by Chrysler Corporation, the Scr-584 paired with a 90mm heavy anti-aircraft array, a UK-developed IFF interrogator, a generator, and the M9 director. Every part showcased U.S. engineering excellence. Its cavity magnetron output 300 kW of microwave energy, surpassing whole German radar arrays. The tracking servos delivered accuracy unattainable by German manufacturing. The M9 handled trajectory computations that once needed squads of manual calculators. Merging these elements into one cohesive armament embodied a visionary breakthrough that German military doctrine had never envisioned such a breakthrough. Known as the Scr-584 anti-aircraft radar director, roughly 500 units of this device saw action across Europe and the Pacific from early 1944 onward. Capable of following planes moving at 600 km/h, surpassing the top speeds of all combat aircraft in service that year, it offered forward-thinking reliability that paid off dramatically with the arrival of German jet fighters. By the summer of 1944, the Luftwaffe was grappling with devastating pilot shortages it could no longer sustain. According to Galland, Luftflotte Reich suffered a 38% loss of its fighter pilots in April alone, while Luftflotte 3 endured 24%. In total, the Germans mourned 489 pilots and 100 officers, as Galland noted, even as training facilities supplied just 396 replacements, among them 62 officers. These casualties extended far beyond dogfights in the sky. More and more seasoned aviators perished under flak that displayed uncanny precision. Dive bombers and close support planes, vital to the Wehrmacht's battlefield strategies, proved especially exposed when flying inside the Scr-584's prime detection range. In his post-war account, The First and the Last, Adolf Galland reflected, "By 1944, nearing Allied lines was like stepping into areas where fatality rates were precisely computed. The artillery didn't target our current positions, but anticipated our paths. No maneuvers could outwit it, no defenses existed, only chance." During the Ardennes push in December 1944, German troops at last seized a battered yet intact Scr-584 close to Saint-Vith. Dr. Hans Pendel, the Reich's top radar specialist, oversaw the in-depth analysis. His findings, delivered to the top brass, were crushing. The U.S. has mastered automated pursuit with precision we thought unattainable. Their signals use frequencies beyond our detection or interference using current gear. Above all, they churn out these devices in vast numbers as we labor over experimental models in labs. We're not lagging by months, we're years away, with zero hope of closing the gap. Examination of the prize uncovered advances that German researchers had ruled out as unfeasible in theory. Features like self-sustaining target lock amid evasive actions, digital calculation of 3D ballistic trajectories, and tight fusion of radar, computing, and gunnery systems. Yet this insight arrived far too late to engineer defenses or matching tech. The sense of tech despair among Luftwaffe flyers fueled the January 1945 uprising by fighter aces. Top scorers such as Adolf Galland, Johannes Steinhoff, and Gordon Golob challenged Hermann Göring head-on regarding their hopeless plight. Johannes Steinhoff, holder of 176 kills, declared to Göring, "We're no longer battling rival aviators. We're up against algorithms devised by computers. Personal prowess means nothing facing mechanized precision. You accuse us of cowardice, yet bravery can't overcome tech we lack." Far from quitters, these were the Reich's elite heroes. Their grasp that age-old warrior ideals were powerless against machine-driven arms marked a deep mental collapse. Göring's reply, dismissing Galland from duty and warning of military trials, highlighted the brass's refusal to face the tech truth. Even the cutting-edge Me-262 jet offered no sanctuary from Scr-584 guided barrages. Its 540 mph velocity, which rendered it all but immune to Allied pursuers, held no sway over radars built to handle 600 mph threats. Ob Lieutenant Heinz Baer, one of the Luftwaffe's premier jet aces, recounted post-war, "We figured our velocity would shield us from ack-ack. But we learned the Yankee cannons followed us flawlessly. Explosives met us right on our projected routes. Pace just shortened our dodge window. Multiple jets went down to flak, showing freakish exactness. The Scr-584's prowess in pursuing and downing jets underscored U.S. prescience absent in German strategy. Engineered to outpace any flyer from 1942, it stayed lethal against innovations debuting only in late 1944. Output figures exposed an industrial chasm that sealed Germany's fate, no matter the battlefield tweaks. U.S. manufacturing, Chrysler alone delivered 2,980 systems. Verified total output, at least 1,700, plus extras from General Electric and Westinghouse. Price dropped from $50,000 to below $10,000 each. Peak monthly output, over 50. German side, Würzburg radar. Total, around 2,500 across the conflict. All radar variants combined, about 4,000, mostly crafted manually. No real savings on costs. Bottlenecked output the whole war. This gap mirrored broader strengths in U.S. manufacturing ethos. The Scr-584 was meant for use by conscripted non-experts after 6 weeks prep. German radars demanded skilled engineers with extended specialist training. More than specs, the Scr-584 showcased tangible benefits that boosted its performance, deployment, and portability. The device became operational just 30 minutes after reaching the site, far quicker than the hours needed for German counterparts. Such agility was vital during Italy's dynamic operations, where the Scr-584 delivered instant aerial protection to forward troops. Unaffected by conditions, it kept functioning amid rain, snow, and mist that rendered visual aiming useless. In contrast, German radar effectiveness dropped sharply in bad weather. Ease of upkeep stood out too. Its modular design let crew members swap parts themselves. German setups demanded expert mechanics for the smallest fixes. Staffing needs were minimal, 3 personnel versus 8 for the German Würzburg radar. Post-war, Field Marshal Albert Kesselring remarked that American radar-directed anti-aircraft barrages had neutralized their tactical aviation by early 1944. The Wehrmacht, originators of integrated arms tactics, ended up operating in the dark as the Allies gained total overhead visibility. The fight against V-1 buzz bombs offered hard data on this breakthrough. In the initial week, interceptions hit 17% using traditional approaches. By week 4, that rose to 60%. Week 8 saw a 74% average success rate. The peak single day reached 82%. Shell usage dropped dramatically, improving efficiency by a factor of 25. For the first time in combat history, ground defenses consistently outmatched incoming planes. The V-1, a basic early cruise missile on fixed routes that ought to have been straightforward to hit, zipped along at 409 meters, making it largely immune to old-school flak. The Scr-584 flipped that dynamic entirely. Teutonic electronic countermeasures, which had jammed British radars effectively at the war's start, failed utterly against the Scr-584. The Luftwaffe's advanced jammers, tuned to meter bands, had zero impact on microwave tech. Likewise, their meter-length aluminum strips as decoys proved pointless. The shortfall wasn't just hardware. German EW strategy presumed foes relied on matching tech. They overlooked the chance that U.S. systems ran on entirely novel physics until seized gear exposed the reality. At that point, however, Germany had neither the means nor the margin to craft fresh defenses. The Scr-584's reach went further than downed planes. By thwarting German scouting flights, it starved Wehrmacht intel. Enemy leaders couldn't spy on Allied buildups, monitor unit shifts, or spot vulnerabilities. This info blackout fueled Teutonic blunders from 1944 through 45. General der Panzertruppe Hasso von Manteuffel, who led the 5th Panzer Army in the Ardennes offensive, later said, "We struck into the unknown in the Ardennes. Our recon planes couldn't penetrate Allied airspace. We had no clue about foe reinforcements or shifts. The surprise we needed evaporated when vision belonged to one side alone." To Luftwaffe aviators, the Scr-584 brought a soul-crushing blow. It meant doom from automated gear that stripped away pilot prowess, airmen with years of training, countless sorties under their belts, and top honors from their homeland felt powerless before tech. Accounts from those who lived through it highlight the mental toll. Hermann Hinzpeter, Baer, closing the conflict with 220 kills, reflected, "Clashing with rival flyers was conflict as we knew it, talent versus talent, bravery against bravery, but those radar-steered cannons weren't battle, they were slaughter by numbers, no glory in perishing to cold computations." This stripping of humanity from fighting hit spirits harder than mere dread of dying. Luftwaffe flyers had embraced risk as a soldier's duty. What broke them was obsolescence, their expertise and grit dismissed as irrelevant in a formula beyond their control. Following the Reich's capitulation, Allied intel experts showed off the Scr-584 to detained Luftwaffe brass. Responses varied from awe to grudging insight. Several voiced gratitude for grasping their nemesis at last. Dr. Wilhelm Rung, involved in German radar projects, confessed in 1985, "We ignored any intel clashing with our views on U.S. prowess. We spun complex excuses for inexplicable flak precision instead of facing the plain fact. They possessed superior gear. Such hubris claimed countless lives. The German forces' systemic refusal to acknowledge American tech edges arose from ingrained mindsets. The Wehrmacht, trailblazers in armed forces advances during the 1930s, couldn't fathom that Yankee innovators had outpaced their own expertise. This oversight lingered, despite piling proof through 1944. In peacetime, the system evolved into the AN-MPQ-1 and AN-TPQ-3 models. The Scr-584 radar system influenced 8 key developments, including the U.S. Army's field artillery missile setup known as the MGM-5 Corporal. Its core innovations, automatic target following, predictive computing, and seamless system merging, laid the groundwork for every later air defense platform. Conceptually, all contemporary surface-to-air missile arrays trace their roots back to the Scr-584. It demonstrated that robust aerial protection demanded the elimination of human response delays from the combat sequence. This insight, gained amid the dismantling of the Luftwaffe's operational strength, guided advancements in military tech through the Cold War era and into the present. Although full records are lost to wartime devastation, surviving records highlight the Scr-584's remarkable impact. At least 700 units were produced. Chrysler records show 298 alone. Output peaked at over 50 units per month. In battle, during the first night at Anzio, it downed 7 out of 12 bombers, achieving a 58% success rate. Against V-1 threats, it reached an 82% intercept figure. Shell usage improved by a factor of 25. On D-Day, 39 systems delivered total sky coverage. Key tech edges included 40-mile detection range, twice that of German gear. Precision hit 75 feet compared to over 500 feet for foes. It tracked autonomously, unlike manual German methods. Assembly took just 30 minutes versus more than 2 hours for rivals. The Germans' clashes with the Scr-584 yield lasting insights into tech shocks in combat. Overconfident in their edge, bound by rigid theories, and blind to U.S. ingenuity, German commanders dispatched pilots against a peril they failed to grasp or oppose. General de Fleer Paul Deichmann captured the blunder. "We clung to our preferred illusions. Any conflicting proof got rationalized. We refused to concede that U.S. technicians had pulled off what our experts deemed unfeasible. When truth hit, the Luftwaffe was already done as a viable power." The shortfall lay less in spying than in decoding intel. German spotters faithfully relayed U.S. flak prowess, but superiors waved it off as it clashed with preconceptions of American limits. Such mental blocks inflicted worse harm than any leak. The Scr-584 captured U.S. manufacturing ethos, high-volume output, uniformity, and ease of assembly. Instead of flawless single pieces, designers aimed for dependable large-scale fabrication, borrowing from car-making lines, a method that outshone German artisanal accuracy in war contexts. This gap spilled into tactics. Teutonic forces prized deep knowledge and niche roles, while American engineering favored ease and mechanization. The Scr-584 thrived by sidelining operator talent, rendering elite training irrelevant, By broadening access to cutting-edge tools, it tipped the scales in all-out conflict. The Scr-584 signaled the close of dogfight duels based on pilot prowess. It ushered in machine-driven battles that persist now. To the Luftwaffe, this shift arrived as a baffling blow. They began as skyborne elites and concluded as prey to algorithms. Decades later, Johannes Steinhoff offered a sharp verdict. The Scr-584 didn't merely fell our planes, it toppled our whole view of battle. We saw conflict as valor, finesse, and resolve. The Yanks showed it hinged on engineering, output, and robotics. We shone as fighters, undone by better apparatuses. As a pinnacle W-2's armament, the Scr-584's legacy endures not through downed foes alone, but its symbolism. Methodical tech dominance eclipsing age-old soldierly traits. The Luftwaffe confronted adversaries who rarely erred, having purged manual flaws from targeting. Pilots stayed in the dark about their nemesis as brass rejected its reality. Tales of uncanny flak hits got chalked up to hype. Proof of self-guided pursuit was brushed aside as fantasy. Only after probing seized Scr-584s did German experts decode it, and by then, the Luftwaffe was crippled. They stayed ignorant of how U.S. radar gutted their force, since owning that would mean confessing deep deficits in research, factories, and doctrinal creativity. That mindset wall held firm until loss shattered the facade. For the Luftwaffe flyers who met it, the Scr-584 meant doom plotted by circuits, struck with numeric exactness and untouched by bravery or expertise. They ventured into a digital slaughter zone where outcomes were tallied pre-entry. The era of ace aviators perished above Europe, Demel annihilated by U.S. radar systems that detected unseen, computed in a flash, and eliminated without hesitation. The influence of the Scr-584 reached far past its role in the conflict. It laid the groundwork for contemporary aerial protection and demonstrated that in battles driven by technology, the force-mastering automated targeting prevails. The Luftwaffe absorbed this harsh truth via the erosion of its fighting strength, plane after plane, precisely determined and executed by devices that didn't falter, didn't err, and showed no compassion. The Germans remained unaware too long that their opponents weren't U.S. artillery crews, but rather U.S. algorithms integrated into radar networks transforming the heavens into a calculated domain of death. Their bravery, expertise, and proficiency turned into meaningless variables in formulas beyond their view, impossible to disrupt and fatal to endure. Within that grim realization emerged the origins of today's combat, where triumph goes not to the valiant, but to those with overwhelming technical edge.